I'm still setting up. That looks straight. Looks kind of straight. Had this great idea. I was like, hey, it'd be kind of fun. Pinball machine. I remember really liking Adam's Family pinball. So I thought, oh, save up a few $100. Pinball machine would go great in the shop. They're like 3-4 grand. Man, never mind. And I thought I had a cool idea. Little did I know I can't afford my cool idea. But, ooh, I almost lost my ukulele. Ooh. I used to know some ukulele chords. All right, let's just do a Bible study. Be done with all of this ukulele and pinball. Genesis chapter 37, I think. Yes, chapter 37. So we got down to verse 22, talking about Reuben yesterday, how Reuben tried to step in and save the day. And it's just a good reminder that, we can disqualify ourselves, we can make some big mistakes, but that doesn't mean God's done with us. By no means. It just means that, yeah, we might be disqualified from a ministry or from something, but God has ways of using us if we continue to seek to be used. So in verse 23, it says, so it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. So we talked a little bit about that before. They were in a place called Dothan, which means two cisterns. And so likely they got there and were frustrated by the empty cistern. Verse 25, and they sat down to eat a meal. So, normal day, get your brother, strip him, throw him in a pit, cook yourself some lunch. Now, eat a meal. They lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and they sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and they took Joseph to Egypt. Now, it's just little fact. So Midianites are descendants of Ishmael. And therefore, I have in my notes, Judges chapter 8 is another place where they kind of interchangeably use the two words. So it just, understandably, it's kind of like just saying, I'm a Levite, I'm an Israelite. It's like, it's both the same thing. One is just more specific. And so they take Joseph to Egypt. Now, jumping ahead to chapter 42, verse 21, it says, then they said to one another, we are truly guilty of our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. So, obviously, Joseph's not happy about all this. It's something where we see he's pleading for his life. He's begging that they don't do this. And verse 29, it says, then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said, the lad is no more, and I, where shall I go? So, looking one more time. Now, let's see here. Chapter 42, verse 24. And he turned himself away from them and wept, and he remembered them again and talked with them, and he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. So, again, playing into some of the future events and how maybe it helps us understand our text right here. We don't know this for sure, but Simeon is the second born son. We have Simeon and Levi, then Judah, right? So interesting is, why would they take the second oldest son captive, right? This is later when they're in Egypt and Joseph's kind of playing some mind games with them. But it seems like there's a possibility that Reuben had even clued Joseph in on the plan to try and get him back. And maybe Reuben left. And so that's why they sold him at that time. And Reuben gets back and it's like, wait a minute, he was supposed to be in the pit when I got back. And Joseph's begging that they don't sell him. You know what? Don't sell me. Leave me in the pit to die. Because maybe he knew that Reuben had planned to come back and get him. But he returns, and they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. And then they sent the tunic of many colors that they had brought it to their father and said, we have found this. Do you know whether it's your son's tunic or not? Of course, remember, this is supposed to be a very one-of-a-kind tunic. Like, it really stands out. So it's kind of a dumb question. Is this Joseph's rainbow tunic or not? And he recognized it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn in pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted, and he said, for I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning. Thus his father wept for him. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and a captain of the guard. Now, from here up to chapter 47, it's a 22-year period. So, I mean, we're going to watch Joseph over a long period of time here and things going by. I'll throw out one last little tidbit, is Joseph's tunic. They had to kill a goat to get the blood, and then they take this coat, and it's just funny that there's just a slight hinting back years earlier when Jacob and mom killed a goat, right, to make some food. And he took a coat and he took the clothes of Esau and put them on in order to dupe his father. So interesting how we now have sons in the future who are now tricking their father with clothes and a killed goat all over again. It's a little bit of that what goes around comes around, huh? Now, while what goes around comes around is not necessarily a biblical concept, I think the idea of the more is caught than taught is a wise one. And it's just a reminder again that when our kids have seen the things we've done and we have not openly repented of them or used them as examples, teaching examples, it's a good example for you guys. If it's obvious to your kids that you've done things wrong in the past, hiding them doesn't really teach our kids anything other than to hide sins. And yet you can use them openly as an opportunity to talk about the consequences of sin, the pain it brings, the hurt it brings, the sorrow it brings, all of the anguish it creates for people around us. And so more is caught than taught. It's a simple little thing, but we wrapped up our chapter, and who knows, we might try and tackle all of chapter 38. It's kind of like we jump away tomorrow from the story of Joseph, and we get the story of Judah and Tamar, which, why we get that? Well, it's important because Judah and Tamar are going to be in line of the Messiah. And so we always have the storylines that take us to the Messiah. Similarly, we have an entire book, which I don't know if we'll be covering anytime soon, but the book of Ruth. This random little book, beautiful book, lots of beautiful pictures, but why is it included? Well, it's included because Ruth and Boaz and Jesse, Salmon, well, that's Rahab, all these people, though, these stories, they're the stories that give us the genealogy to Jesus. And so that is why they are included. All right. That's all I've got for you guys today. Just remember, more is caught than taught, right? Whether it's our children or it's our friends, they are watching you, the way you act, the way you react, and all that you do. And they're putting that in balance with the fact that you call yourself a Christian. So therefore, whatever you do, must be what Christians do. Is it love and sacrifice, or is it hypocrisy? We're always being watched. Pray for strength to do well. God bless you guys. Have an amazing day. I will see you guys tomorrow, if not tonight at prayer.